What's up, guys? So, yeah, I don't upload many videos nowadays, but here we are. We're back, and for some of y'all that don't know me, I'm an ex Rainbow Six pro coach for the Latin region. It's been a couple years since I've really been involved into the competitive scene, but recently we have had the opportunity to explore the competitive scene in Apex Legends, and basically we are gonna be going over some VODs, basically scrims that we played the other day. And the whole concept of this is just kind of explain from my perspective what I understand from these scrims, how we can replicate it, and explain it also to the viewer that doesn't understand, that's probably trying to gain a little bit of basics on it. Yes, maybe maybe not 100% of what I'm saying is 100% correct, but it can help you guide yourself into figuring out the way that you want to play the game in a competitive setting. And I don't really see a lot of videos about this online. I do see you can watch pros and learn from them, but they're not necessarily teaching you. They're just showing you what they're doing, and then if you're really a good listener, then you're taking notes, which is kind of like the way that I got myself into building my team and getting to the point that I am now, which is exploring the competitive scene of all of this. So we're gonna start with this VOD that we're currently watching, which is Olympus. Now, getting into it, Apex is a game that requires confidence, probability, and by probability I mean luck and guessing, and then controller. So what I mean by controller means, like, if you're on controller instead of MNK, you're most likely gonna be at more advantage of and probabilities of winning. And by that I don't necessarily mean like, oh, if you're on a controller it's easy win. No, there's two more factors that you can add to that. So I always see three factors, and if you have two of those three factors, you have a pretty good chance of winning. So as you can see, we just have finished looting Solar Array, and we're already rotating with 3 minutes of round one closing. So that's kind of like how you'll see a lot of teams rotating, especially if you're on the lower end of looting. Some teams will loot really fast in like the first like minute and a half to 2 minutes, and then will leave with like almost no loot, but it will guarantee them a good position in the end circle, which is going to help them win the game. And hopefully they'll get loot by the end of the game by poking at teams, or catching a single guy somewhere. So here our whole idea with Olympus is the only map of the three, let's say if we're talking about competitive maps, that has these portals that can, basically transfer you quickly to another side of the map. So that's kind of what we were utilizing here by using a portal and getting basically to the other side of the map. This is where I guess I am the IGL of the team, so this is where I guess that the circle would kind of end. And how do you know where the circle is going to end? Well, there's not really a true way to know, but to play the game a lot, basically. So as I was saying, you can't really determine where the ring is going to pull on the map, but you can kind of guess it based on playing a lot of ranked games and maybe scrims, and kind of have a pinpoint of like, okay, this is very similar to a ring I played, so I'm gonna guess that it's going to pull here. Which the point that I'm currently talking about is the probability point. What's the probability that the circle is gonna end where you think it is, right? This is more of an IGL concept, but it can help your IGL if you're the teammate that's trying to advise him and give him feedback on like, oh, maybe I know where the circle ends. So if you see the circle, you can see that it's pulling pretty good to the north side of the map, and as you can see, it's kind of like edging a lot more to the north side of the map. These circles are a little bit easier to guess where they're pulling compared to a circle that's a little bit more in the middle, because it could really go either way. It could go left, it could go right, it could go up, it could go down. But here you can guess that it's gonna go north just because it's pulling so hard to the north side. Now that's more likely that happens, that it goes north than it goes south, right? Because it could happen that this circle, we're thinking it's going to go north, and then as soon as this ring closes, it decides to pull completely into Hammond Labs, which it can happen, but it's less likely. And if that happens, then you're just going to have to switch up your whole game plan. But in this situation, we're thinking it's gonna pull north, so we decided to take the rift and go play this house because I am a little bit familiar with this type of pull, and it's either gonna pull. My idea is that it's either gonna pull Power Grid or it's gonna pull Rift. But regardless, we should have the next 2 circles at least on our end, and that's what you're trying to make happen. Is you're trying to make the first 3 to 4 circles, like if you're lucky, you have the 4 circles on you where you picked it. But if you're not that lucky, hopefully you have at least the first 3 circles on you so that, teams start going down and teams start dying and you get better placement, and then you can, have more open spots towards the end and try to get some KP, right? Like that's the whole first step to it. And that's where the probability comes to, right? All right, guys. So what you guys are about to see right now is a team that is just landed on us, and as you can see, I am basically hitting them. They don't know that there was some people in the building. I'm going for a quick frag, throwing my ult on us just to, make sure that no other team is trying to get closer to us, and that this guy's teammate just really can't help this down person, and we can just capitalize on the KP. I mean, it's kind of a waste of an ult, but not really, because I know I'm going to have my ult by endgame again. So I don't feel bad about using it. And if we have like ult excels, then we can use them, which in this case, we did not have ult excel. Which is gonna make a huge difference in endgame as well, because we needed some ult excels at the end game, because we didn't have our ults. But we'll get there at that whenever we get there. Another thing that's important here is we have to move into circle now that we are in the closing ring of ring 4, and this circle kind of hurts, but we're not that far from ring 4 that we have to push quick, and we also don't want to push too early, because then we're going to be sandwiched by the team that's already in zone and a potential team that's coming from zone, which from outer zone, which I know for a fact here that there's a team outside of the zone and they're gonna start pushing in. I know I don't have no audio, guys. It's just so that you guys don't get confused with me also talking in game. But the whole concept here is that we're trying to wait till the very last second to see where these guys are going to rotate through so that we can hold them off. And so right now, that's what we're doing. We're seeing that they're going to start rotating to our side. So my train of thought is like, let me double check real quick where we are safe to play, and then like know, like ping it for my team, know where we have to play when I call it and when we need to start rotating. So here I start getting shot, so I decided to go back and heal. Obviously, try to get a little closer to the zone because we're pretty close, but we don't want that team to get in zone before we do. We don't want to do the switcheroo or whatever you want to call it. But so I make sure I throw my ult just to kind of slow them down, force them, because this could be easily 3 KP for us, and we're already top 7. So I'm gonna take that risk, throw my ult there. It did hurt a couple of them, so they have to heal. They have to choose whether they have to heal or they push forward. And as you can see, they die pretty quickly here through my teammate Hot. He literally just finishes both of them in 2 seconds because they were getting hurt by zone, and they were also hurt by my ult, so they had to like heal and take all that time. So we're finally playing to the close of the end game. We're safe in zone, and a lot of people are gonna wonder like, why is the team above not peaking? Well, a good team is not necessarily gonna peak here, because you gotta think the ring is already pretty small. And if there is a team playing in this area right here, and this team decides to go out of their buildings or play it a little too aggro and try to fight us, this team's just going to take their building, or they're just going to third party, and then this team is not going to lose their chance to win. So right now, every team's just trying to live until that very end circle and kind of like live together, so because everyone wants that chance to win the game.
Near that rampart.
Yeah, that's mine. Go, no! So here you hear a lot of fighting. I'm gonna mute it again because it gets pretty loud, but we saw that this was clear, so we take it. I smoke our corners a little bit because we're, just give us some time to loot, and also like potentially push back a team from pushing into the smoke. Obviously, if they have digis, they would, but we're just banking that they don't, because it's also not digi day and they might not have it. So we managed to get into this ring, and this is where we're going to stay until we play the next ring. So close to the end of the game, as an IGL or as a player of your team, you want to start thinking like, what is your next move, and like, what am I gonna do, especially in that end ring, because they're always sometimes awkward, and in a map like this is very awkward. So you gotta be familiar with the map. I know, like for example, from playing here, that in this map there's a low ground and a high ground. We're on the high ground. There's a low ground. And on the low ground, I know there's a couple things that you can play, like kind of to protect you. So we need to make this decision, which is something that Hot was mentioning to me, like maybe we can play the low ground. And I'm thinking, okay, well, let me see like at what point we can push that low ground, because our other option would be to fight for high ground, but that would make no sense because then the other team would just come and third us if we initiate the fighting. We want to be the last team to initiate the fighting. So we're gonna decide to drop down right before the ring starts, and then basically just try to play the edge of the ring until the ring is very small, because we know we have a fuse, and the fuse ult is huge, especially end game. We have the Horizon ult, which is also huge end game. We have the Q. Like, I mean, we don't have my ult, but we have enough that we can make something happen. So we're getting to the last 30 seconds here. No team is underneath with us, but there is a portal in front of us, so I just mark it so that people kind of realize. So these two teams are going to have to force to either drop on us or fight us. So our fuse basically drops his ult down, and I call for a Q just because they're starting to smoke us and they might have Digi, so I kind of like want to make sure that we heal. I decided not to finish the bat, which is something I regretted later, but it was, oh well, I would need to help my team get the last couple kills so that we at least get second, which is what happened here. Because then obviously this team, Rampart, just pulls the Rampart and literally obliterates like the three of us. There's not much to do. She pulled the wall down. Most of our bullets went into the wall, especially because we're not running Digi, so we're kind of like a little blind. Obviously here it's easier to see that when you're in the moment and you're like trying to figure out like who's up and who's down. But as far as it went, as you can see, there's like 4 boxes here. This is the Rampart wall. She had double Rampart wall. So we had to destroy one wall and then destroy the second one. And by the time I had destroyed the second Rampart screen, she had her ult out, and I was already cracked and a little hurt, and I died to the ult. Technically speaking, I think we could have won the game because of the lineup that we had. If I had my ult as well, that would have helped. If we played around our knockdowns a little bit better, if I would have pulled that bat at the end, I would have had more heals. If I would have done a shield swap, it would have been better. But these are things that we're still getting better at, and it's things that are so micro that can make a huge difference, but also like we're still, in the process of learning our end games, but this is basically our first not well kind of one of our first time really screaming Olympus, and it's going pretty well. And this just all has to do with the reflection of like what is the theory that we're using, and we're using the theory of probability and confidence. So we need to be confident about our decisions, confident about our calls, which is a huge thing here, and in our gunfights. And by gunfights, I don't necessarily mean like your aim. It's just like push with the team, and if you're gonna push something, push it. Don't second guess it, because then you will die. And then the other one will be push basically with probability. So it means like manage your time well, and then basically guess those. If you're gonna guess that zone and you're sure about it, then push it 100%. But like I said, this specific match is this specific match. We decided to play zone. We're gonna watch another one where it's gonna be a focus on how to play a little bit more edge and a little bit more passive, in the sense, and passive not in the sense of not shooting people, but passive in the sense of like we're not really playing in the zone, we're just chasing after zone, so because we have no other choice, or that's just a better play based on how the lobby is going down. Okay.